If you, like me, have blocked the entirety of WWE's reboot of ECW out of your memory, then you, like me, will be blessed to have pretty much zero recollection of its wretched 3.5-year run. Alas, the job's the job, and in revisiting WWE ECW close to 20 years after it infected our screens like a plague, I've been reminded about some of its insanity. But look, it's not all bad. Just most of it. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 insane WWE ECW moments you forgot about. Join us! Number 10, Air RVD. Rob Van Dam has since admitted that he was losing his passion by the week due to the way in which WWE were presenting the new version of ECW. RVD had been the brand's top star initially, but after the notorious highway drug bust with Sabu, was booked to lose the ECW title and, after returning from a 30-day suspension, wasn't pushed as the main man. Though you could see his interest waning before your very eyes, Mr. Tuesday Night was still plenty capable of getting it done in the ring, and gave ECW champion Bobby Lashley a great match on the January 2nd, 2007 episode of ECW on Sci-Fi. The two were rolling along nicely and created a genuine sense that the ever-popular Van Dam could regain his belt. He had Lashley set up on the announce table and looked like he was going to do that spinning leg lariat thingy he usually does when someone's propped over the guardrail, when the champ preemptively moved out the way. Undeterred, RVD climbed to the second rope and launched himself at Lashley with a massive springboard clothesline, knocking both of them to the floor below. It was a tremendous, very cool looking spot. WWE quickly crapped on it, mind, by having the match end in a no contest as the referee deemed that they were both unable to continue after it. Number 9, The Abraham Washington Show starring Abraham Washington. If you remember Abraham Washington at all, it's more than likely for the notorious Kobe Bryant joke that got him fired when he was the manager of the Primetime Players. What you probably don't remember, since next to nobody was watching the show at the time, is that Washington got his start on ECW in the summer of 2009. Not as a manager, not as a wrestler, but as the host of his very own talk show. The Abraham Washington Show, starring Abraham Washington. May God have mercy on us all. Alright, so this might not be a singular moment since the Abraham Washington Show lasted for an eternity, but we had to include it here because it was all pretty much insane. From Washington's awful dialogue and jokes, to stuff like Shelton Benjamin and Zack Ryder singing Hootie and the Blowfish songs, to the inclusion of Tony Atlas as Abe's Ed McMahon. Actually, the use of Atlas, who is seemingly there to mispronounce names and laugh like a maniac on cue, and sometimes for no reason whatsoever, was really the only good thing about this interminable travesty. Not good in the traditional sense, but we're on a sliding scale here, you know? Number 8, Kelly Kelly gets caned. Everything about Kelly Kelly was kind of insane when you think about it. 19 years old and literally scouted by John Laurinaitis from the pages of swimsuit magazines, Barbie Blank hardly knew a thing about the professional wrestling business when she was thrust onto global television as the double-named so-called exhibitionist. Despite not really being clued into how things go, Kelly Kelly was thrown right into the thick of things early on when her abusive boyfriend Mike Knox used her as a human shield on the July 18, 2006 episode of ECW on Sci-Fi. Sandman went to hit Knox with his trusty Singapore cane, only for Kelly to absorb the full force of the blow right on her head. Blank later noted that they'd rehearsed the spot backstage earlier in the day, during which time she was told she would hardly feel a thing. In reality, she ended up most likely getting a concussion from the shot, which was so painful it made her cry. All the poor girl wanted to do was get her kit off in front of an audience of millions, and this is the thanks she gets. Number 7, Yoshi Tatsu's incredibly racist debut. After the originals were whittled away, ECW became essentially like a televised developmental graduating platform, a place where people from Florida Championship Wrestling could be brought up to work alongside trusted veterans and main roster talent that the company clearly had no major plans for. Yoshi Tatsu was one of those who got his main roster start on ECW, debuting on the June 30th, 2009 edition of the show. Booked against the talented Shelton Benjamin, it could, and really should, have been an opportunity for the Japanese newcomer to shine. But that's not how things turned out. Rather than wrestle a competitive match, WWE instead had the gold standard cut a racist pre-match promo on the debutant and then continually bow in an exaggerated manner in lieu of locking up. The match consisted of one move, as Tatsu delivered a head kick to pick up the win. Shelton later referred to the segment as the one thing he would erase from his career, noting that he was disgusted by the racist nature of it. His mama raised him better than this. Number 6. Macho Libre. The very first match on the new ECW TV show was the Sandman taking on the Zombie. A concession to the Sci-Fi Network, who wanted there to be some sort of supernatural element to the show, the Zombie's appearance told fans from the off that this was not gonna be the same ECW they'd followed passionately during the 90s. The Zombie lives in infamy, but people tend to forget that the Sandman caning a one-off character was actually a recurring joke. And a week later, it was the turn of Macho Libre. Who was Macho Libre? Well, I'm glad you asked. Macho Libre was former baldy Tony DeVito dressed up as Jack Black's luchador character from Nacho Libre, but in a twist, he cut a promo doing Randy Savage's shtick. Anyway, Macho's promo went on for too long and died a death in front of the live crowd, though Joey Styles seemed to find the whole scene hilarious, which I'm sure had absolutely nothing to do with a complete lunatic screaming at him through his headphones to laugh. Laugh, damn it, laugh! Nothing whatsoever. Number 5, Paul Heyman kisses Tommy Dreamer. Now, there was certainly a strong sexual element to the new ECW TV show, with stuff like Kelly's striptease, Ariel's entrance, and the whole Extreme Strip Poker episode, to name but a few examples. If any of that stuff gave you the horn, I'll probably still judge you, but also I can understand why. Yet, if the big kiss between Tommy Dreamer and Paul Heyman got you stiffer than a Gunter chop, I'm gonna need you to leave your full name and address in the comments so I can inform the relevant authorities. In fairness, there was nothing sexual about the scene which took place on the July 18, 2006 episode. The innovator of violence was confronting ECW's former owner, looking for an explanation why Heyman turned on Rob Van Dam 2 weeks prior, costing the whole effing show the ECW title in his match with Big Show. Instead of a reason, however, Dreamer got a big, fat, wet one on his lips, which distracted him long enough to get attacked by the juiciest man who ever lived, Test. WWE ECW's TV show was a ride, wasn't it? Number 4, the Gulf of Mexico match. The original ECW was known for its many innovative stipulation matches, including double dog collar matches, Taipei death matches, and no-rope barbed wire matches. They may have been leaders when it came to novel ways to present ultra-violence, but the original ECW never had a Gulf of Mexico match, did they? WWE ECW 1, original ECW 0. One of the most bizarre match types in WWE history, the Gulf of Mexico match, which would presumably be called the Gulf of America match today given the company's ties to a certain president and WWE Hall of Famer, saw ECW champion Chavo Guerrero take on CM Punk. The title wasn't on the line in the match, but it didn't need to be for this brawl, which featured plenty of engaging action, including Chavo throwing Punk onto the hood of a moving car. In the end, it was the voice of the voiceless who prevailed, hitting Guerrero with a go-to-swim to send the champ into the drink. A ridiculous match concept, but one that was admittedly a lot of fun, and it had a great ending. Number 3, Bobby Lashley dives through the cage. After Vince McMahon booked Bobby Lashley to win the ECW title at December to Dismember, the company were all in on the Lashley mega push, and he was chosen to represent Donald Trump against McMahon's Choice Umaga in the Battle of the Billionaires at WrestleMania 23. And naturally, the boss wanted to screw with him on the road to WrestleMania. On the February 27, 2007 episode of ECW on Sci-Fi, Vince made Bobby defend his title against Hardcore Holly in a steel cage match. In an added twist, Lashley only had 5 minutes to beat old Sparky Plug, or else he'd lose the title. A running power slam meant that he retained with 35 seconds to spare, but Lashley's title defense wasn't what anyone would have been talking about when the show was over. Because in the post-match scene, Lashley got into it with Umaga and his manager, Armando Alejandro Estrada, who was stationed at ringside. A man of action, Lashley eschewed trash-talking in favor of running off the opposite ropes and launching himself through one of the cage's panels, wiping out the Samoan bulldozer. It was an amazing visual that for some reason doesn't really get talked about all that much. Number 2, Vince McMahon meets Sabu. Vince McMahon was certainly on one during the January 30th, 2007 episode of ECW on Sci-Fi. And yes, I do understand that Vince McMahon was usually just on one all the time, but trust me, he very much took things to another level here. Throughout the course of the night, McMahon was shown encountering various ECW originals backstage. He treated the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer with all the respect you'd imagine he would, lambasting the former for drinking on the job and mocking the latter for his ring name. And then he ran into Sabu. Upon bumping into the former ECW champion in the arena hallway, McMahon said, and I quote, "Well, I'll be damned. I thought I was in Texas. Hell, I'm not in Texas. I'm in Afghanistan. Hey boys, check it out. Here's a member of the Taliban." Yes, Vince McMahon, the owner of the company, was likening one of his wrestlers, an American from Michigan, to an Afghan member of a notorious terrorist organization. Because that's how you make stars, pal. And number 1, The Big Show versus Batista. It is a testament to WWE's astounding arrogance that they thought this one would go any other way than what it did. When ECW was brought back in the summer of '06, fans of the original promotion were primarily looking forward to seeing old favorites like Rob Van Dam, Sabu, and the Sandman, as well as new stars with potential and some WWE talents who might fit the bill, such as Kurt Angle. What they did not want was to see WWE's lumbering, hand-picked top dogs like Batista and The Big Show. So just why creative match them together in front of the Hammerstein ballroom crowd, no less, for the main event of the August 1st episode remains a mystery. Fans turned on the match before it even began, giving the animal and the world's largest athlete a hostile reception that certainly didn't let up as the bout wore on, amusing themselves with "You can't wrestle," "You both suck," and "Change the channel" chants among others. For Show, the brand's top heel, this wasn't such a big deal and he played it off, but Big Dave was clearly rattled by the way things unfolded and lashed out.